Take a moment and think about the money you use every day, the balance in your bank account, the numbers on your phone screen, the cash you hand over without thinking. Now ask a question that almost nobody asks anymore. What is that money actually backed by? Not legally, not technically, but in reality. Because for most of human history, money was not an idea. It was not confidence. It was not trust. It was something you could hold. And to understand how modern money works, we have to start with a time when money was still real. For thousands of years, money was a physical object. Gold, silver, copper. These metals were not chosen randomly. They were rare enough to hold value, durable enough to last generations, and difficult enough to fake. Most importantly, they were accepted everywhere. A gold coin and one M. Take a moment and think about the money you use every day, the balance in your bank account, the numbers on your phone screen, the cash you hand over without thinking. Now ask a question that almost nobody asks anymore. What is that money actually backed by? Not legally, not technically, but in reality. Because for most of human history, money was not an idea. It was not confidence. It was not trust. It was something you could hold. And to understand how modern money works, we have to start with a time when money was still real. For thousands of years, money was a physical object. Gold, silver, copper. These metals were not chosen randomly. They were rare enough to hold value, durable enough to last generations, and difficult enough to fake. Most importantly, they were accepted everywhere. A gold coin in one empire was still valuable in another. You did not need permission to trust it. You did not need a central authority to guarantee it. If you held a gold coin, you were holding value itself. Money and value were the same thing. This mattered more than people realize, because metal money had limits. Gold could not be created instantly. It could not be printed in a crisis. It could not be multiplied by decision. If a ruler wanted to spend more, they needed more gold. If a war was too expensive, it simply could not continue forever. Money imposed discipline. It forced governments to face reality. Power had boundaries because money had boundaries. But reality is inconvenient. As societies grew larger, trade expanded across continents, empires became more complex, those limits began to feel restrictive. Gold moved slowly, economies moved fast, and that gap created pressure. That pressure led to one of the most important inventions in financial history: paper money. At first, paper money did not replace gold. It represented it. Early paper currency was not money itself. It was a claim, a receipt. Each note promised that a specific amount of gold was stored somewhere safe. If you didn't trust the paper, you could exchange it. Paper was convenience. Gold was truth. As long as that exchange existed, money stayed real. This system worked surprisingly well. People preferred paper. It was lighter, easier to transport, safer than carrying metal. Gold stayed in vaults. Paper moved through the economy. Most people never touched gold anymore. And that was the first quiet shift. Money still had value, but people stopped seeing it. Over time, that distance changed behavior. When you no longer see the thing that gives money value, you stop thinking about it. People stopped asking what backed their money. They trusted the paper because it had always worked. Convenience replaced certainty, and systems built on convenience are easy to change. As economies expanded, governments faced a new problem. They wanted to spend more on infrastructure, on administration, on influence, but gold did not scale easily. Mining took time, discovery was uncertain, and the bigger the state became, the more tempting it was to bend the rules of money. Then came war. War does not ask politely. War demands everything at once. Soldiers, weapons, factories, logistics, all of it requires money immediately. But gold does not appear on demand, and that is where the real conflict began. During major wars, governments faced a choice: either accept the limits of gold and lose, or suspend the rules of money and survive. They chose survival. Gold convertibility was suspended. Citizens were told this was temporary, an emergency measure. Paper money kept circulating, but the promise behind it quietly disappeared. Once a rule is broken once, it becomes easier to break again. After the wars ended, many people expected a return to normal. Gold backing restored, discipline returned. But governments had learned something. Life without limits was easier. They could spend more, borrow more, expand faster. Returning to strict money felt impossible. By the mid-20th century, money had changed its role. It was no longer a claim on something solid. It was a claim on stability. As long as governments survived, money survived. Gold still existed, but it was now distant, hidden. Money became abstract, and most people accepted that abstraction without realizing what it meant. This set the stage for the most important monetary compromise in human history, a system designed to look stable, feel disciplined, but remain flexible. A system that would hold the world together for a while, and then break. By the end of World War II, the world was exhausted. Cities were destroyed. Industries were broken. Currencies were unstable. Trust in money was fragile. Every country had printed heavily to survive. Inflation was common. Exchange rates were chaotic. Something had to change. World leaders understood one thing very clearly. The old gold system could not return in its original form. But abandoning discipline completely was also dangerous. So they searched for a compromise, a system that looked stable, felt controlled, but allowed flexibility when needed. In 1944, representatives from dozens of countries met to design a new global monetary order. The solution they created would shape the next several decades of global finance. It was simple on the surface. Every major currency would be linked to one currency, and that currency would be linked to gold. The US dollar became the center. 1 ounce of gold would be worth $35. Other currencies would fix their value relative to the dollar. Gold stayed in the background. The dollar moved to the foreground. America became the anchor of the global financial system. At first, this system worked remarkably well. Trade expanded, reconstruction accelerated, confidence returned. The dollar was trusted because it was still connected to gold. Other countries were comfortable holding dollars instead of metal. It felt efficient, modern, stable. But the system depended on one fragile assumption, that the United States would limit how many dollars it created. That assumption would not hold. As the decades passed, America's role changed. It was no longer just a participant in the global system. It was the system. The dollar became essential for trade, reserves, and settlement, and that created power. With that power came temptation. The United States began spending heavily. Wars abroad, social programs at home, global influence everywhere. To fund this spending, more dollars were created. And those dollars did not stay inside America. They flowed outward. Foreign governments accumulated dollars as reserves. Banks held dollars. Corporations used dollars. Global trade depended on dollars. The world was holding American money on an enormous scale. But gold remained limited. It did not grow at the same pace as dollars in circulation. This imbalance grew slowly, then all at once. On paper, everything looked fine. Markets were calm, trade was strong, but beneath the surface, the numbers no longer added up. There were far more dollars than gold to support them. Some countries noticed earlier than others. They began asking uncomfortable questions. If these dollars represent gold, where is the gold? And more importantly, what happens if everyone asks at the same time? A few governments decided not to wait for the answer. They began exchanging their dollars for gold, exactly as the system allowed. America's gold reserves started shrinking, quietly at first, then visibly. This was the moment the flaw became obvious. The system only worked as long as trust remained, as long as countries believed they would never all ask for gold at once. But belief is not permanent. By the late 1960s, pressure was building. The United States faced a dilemma. If it continued exchanging dollars for gold, its reserves would disappear. If it refused, the system would collapse. There was no clean solution, only a choice. This was not just a financial problem, it was a political problem, a strategic problem, a credibility problem. Because once the promise was broken, it could never be restored. Money would change permanently. Behind closed doors, that reality became unavoidable. The system was unsustainable, not because of theory, not because of ideology, but because the math no longer added up. What followed was one of the most important decisions in modern financial history. A decision made quietly, announced briefly, but felt forever. And that decision would work the exact moment money finally disconnected from physical reality.
By the early 1970s, the global monetary system was under strain. On the surface, everything still looked normal. Currencies traded, markets functioned, trade continued. But underneath, the foundation was cracking. The problem was no longer theoretical, it was arithmetic. There were too many dollars and not enough gold. Every time another country exchanged dollars for gold, the imbalance became more visible. Confidence was weakening, and confidence was the only thing holding the system together. For the United States, the situation was unsustainable. If it continued honoring the promise, its gold reserves would vanish. If it broke the promise, the entire system would change. There was no third option, only delay. Eventually, delay was no longer possible. A decision had to be made, not in an international conference, not through negotiation, but unilaterally. In August of 1971, that decision arrived. The United States announced that dollars would no longer be convertible into gold. The promise that had existed for decades was suspended, officially described as temporary, in reality, permanent. With that announcement, the final link between money and physical value was cut. Gold was removed from the system, not gradually, not over time, in a single moment. From that day forward, money no longer represented a claim on something tangible. It represented something else, trust. This marked the beginning of the modern fiat money era. Fiat money does not rely on metal, it relies on authority. Money has value because governments declare it so, because taxes must be paid with it, because markets accept it, because everyone agrees to keep using it. In this new system, limits disappeared. Money could be created digitally, instantly, in vast quantities. Debt became normal. Borrowing became permanent. Growth was fueled not by stored value, but by future promises. At first, the system felt liberating. Economic expansion accelerated. Financial markets grew. Global trade exploded. Money flowed faster than ever before. But the nature of money had fundamentally changed. Under gold-based systems, money enforced discipline. Under fiat systems, discipline depends on restraint, and restraint is optional. Over time, this new reality reshaped everything. Governments ran persistent deficits. Corporations relied on cheap credit. Households became comfortable with debt. Money was no longer something saved first and spent later. It was something created when needed. Central banks became powerful. They could influence economies by adjusting interest rates. They could stabilize markets by creating liquidity. They could delay crises, but they could not eliminate them. Because the system now depended on confidence. Confidence that money would hold value. Confidence that debt would be repaid. Confidence that tomorrow would look enough like today. History shows that systems based on belief can last a very long time, longer than people expect, but belief is not permanent. It must be maintained. This does not mean the system is about to collapse. It means something more important. It means money today is not what it used to be. It is not a thing. It is a relationship between governments and citizens, between markets and trust, between belief and behavior. Understanding this shift changes how you see the modern world, why debt keeps growing, why money creation feels endless, why crises feel different than they did in the past. Money did not disappear, it transformed, from metal to paper to belief. And that transformation began on a single day, the day money stopped being real.
If this documentary helped you understand how modern money actually works, like the video and subscribe to the channel. More finance and economic history documentaries coming next.